Hey, Attorney Anderson here, March 1st, 2020. So I have a bunch of notes to share with you about the 2020 changes from Virginia. Now, these are the things that have passed, and I'm going to try to break them down. This is going to be a fairly long video. I'm anticipating 25 to 30 minutes because we do have to cover lots of bills. Now, I'm going to go through this and make this as quickly done as possible, but understanding that there's a lot more to everything I'm saying, just trying to give you the highlights and the summaries. I'm going to highlight the bill numbers so that if you want to go in and take a look at them, you'll be able to do that. So lots and lots of bills have passed this year. And I'm certainly not going to be able to comment on the thousands of bills that have come up, but I think these are the ones that are most relative to most of us. So let's start off with this one. House Bill 34. If you've had a refusal from a DUI, the law in Virginia currently is that you cannot get a driver's license for a solid year. Like solid, you cannot get a driver's license. However, House Bill 34 now says after 30 days, you are going to be able to do that. I'm laughing because I see Jeremy's post of the Sunday matinee. So yeah, grab your popcorn, guys. This is going to be a decently long video. So yeah, the Sunday matinee. All right, so 30 days, you can get a restricted license. So if you have been convicted of a DUI and a refusal within the past year and you're not able to get a restricted license because of the refusal, you will be allowed to apply for one now as long as you've been 30 days into the restricted, the suspension of that. All right. House Bill 238, absentee voting. So they are going to allow you to absentee vote so long as thank you, Senator Chase. I appreciate my haircut is not that great today. You're going to be able to absentee vote within 3 days of the close of the voting. So basically, if you are absentee voting, you have to vote on the date. It has to be postmarked, and then the registrar has to get it within 3 days of the conclusion of that time. So if we vote on Tuesday the 2nd, it would have to be there by like Tuesday the 5th or Friday the 5th. There's going to be an exception for emergency voting if you have like a family emergency and you miss the absentee deadline. That's House Bill 242. Here's a great one, Facebook. House Bill 245. All you unmarried folks out there can now have sex. Fornication has been repealed. So you unmarried folks can get it on, and it won't be a crime any longer in Virginia. Only up until now has it been legal for married people to get it on. But now, thanks to the wisdom of the General Assembly, House Bill 245 makes that equally across the board to do that. Also, House Bill 1071, you MFers, we can now MF and swear and MF in public, and it's legal. So no problems with going ahead and just dropping the F-bomb right down in Virginia Beach Boulevard. It's totally legal now. That's been repealed. This is a big thing they were worried about, is making sure that you could drop the F-bomb in public. That's been repealed. Grand larceny threshold, that has been increased to $1,000. Now, it's weird because when I started practicing 20 years ago, it was $200, and now it is, it went up to $500, now it's going to be $1,000. So that is actually pretty much in line with the majority of the country. Texas, I believe, has a $2,500 threshold. I have always said, as a criminal defense attorney, stealing an Xbox should not be a felony. Stealing 5 Xboxes should be a felony. So I actually support that one. I'm glad that they raised that threshold. That's in line with the federal limits. That's in line with everything. Making somebody a felon is a big deal, and $1,000 is a much more appropriate number in my opinion. But that's passed. All right, here's a gun bill. So House Bill 9, which was having to report your firearm within 24 hours or pay a civil fine if it was lost or stolen. That was modified at the last minute in the Senate. So now it's a 400. It is a 48 time period that you have, and there is a $450 fine. So that's how that worked out. So you get more time, but there's a bigger fine. House Bill 38, tanning salons. So no tanning for you under 18-year-olds. Now you can have sex because that's legal and because there's no more fornication, but do not go to the tanning salons. You're not going to be allowed to tan, thanks to House Bill 38. All right. House Bill 421, that's the locals being able to make gun-free zones. That got amended in the Senate, made it worse because now it's going to include parks, recreation centers, it's going to include permitted events, and it's going to include streets on permitted events. And so that is a done deal. That one, again, is something that we can fight at the local level because it does not require localities to change the laws on this. It just allows them to. Now, one thing I really haven't commented on is House Bill 421 allows localities to sue gun manufacturers, but the General Assembly has no idea what they're doing on this because there's a federal law right on point that says you can't sue gun manufacturers. So I will love it when the city of Charlottesville tries to file a lawsuit and the matter gets removed to federal court, and then the case gets dismissed because we still live in a society where the federal law preempts the state law. So House Bill 421 will most certainly get struck down in court on the issue of locals being able to sue gun manufacturers. But as far as letting them have local laws relating to gun-free zones, they're going to allow them to do that. You can go to your local government and ask them to not pass that and put in an ordinance. So that would be permissible as well. Bankruptcy. So this is one of my things. So the homestead deed is now going up to $25,000 for your residence, which is much more in line with other states. So if you have equity in your real estate, you're going to be allowed to file bankruptcy and keep the first $25,000. Up until now, it's only been $5,000 per person. Now it's $25,000 per person. So that is changing. And so if you are thinking about filing bankruptcy and you have equity in your house, there's going to be more protection for you if you have to do that. House Bill 980, the abortion bill. This is one that Justin Fairfax broke the tie on. Basically, non-physicians will be allowed to do abortions now, including licensed midwives. So nurse practitioners, physician assistants, there's no ultrasound requirements, there's no 24-hour waiting period. All of the general safeguards have been just eliminated. So you're going to be able to go to an urgent care clinic now to get an abortion without any wait or any safeguards. That's House Bill 980. All right, House Bill 874. This is the one where you can't hold a device in your hand while driving. This is a kind of an issue because a lot of us, including me, use our cell phones for navigation. There's not an exception for that in the code. The only exception of it in the code is law enforcement can drive around with their cell phones in their hands. And we can have a cell phone in our hand if we are using it for emergency uses only. So if you're going to be using your cell phone for navigation, you're not going to be able to hold it. Now, there's nothing illegal in the code now about you being able to manipulate it. You just can't hold it. So if you are going to be talking on it, if you are going to be using it for navigation, it has to be out of your hands. And so you're going to want to, I saw something that was pretty cool. It's like this cup holder, and it has kind of a stand on it, and you can put your cell phone in there, and you can kind of keep it close to eye level. That would be legal under the law, just as long as you're not physically holding it. Now, that one doesn't have an effective date until January 1st. So you don't have to worry about this until then. If you get caught, it's a $125 fine. House Bill 885. This has been a stupid law in Virginia for a long time. The law in Virginia dealing with reckless driving has always been that if you go more than 80 miles per hour, regardless of the speed zone, then that's a Class 1 criminal misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in jail and up to a $2,500 fine. And that's totally asinine because there's lots of speed zones in Virginia that are 70 miles per hour. So if you are going in a 70 mile per hour zone, going 81 miles per hour, you're looking up at jail time, suspension of your license, reckless driving. It's been a really bad thing that's happened, and it's been on the books forever because the speed zones have increased. Now, back in the day when 55 was the standard threshold, that was an appropriate level of 80 to have that. But now that speed zones have increased, it's been a problem. Now, you can also get zinged with reckless driving if you go 20 or more over the speed limit. So if you are in a 55 zone and you are going 76 miles per hour, you could get zinged for reckless driving. Okay, so what they've done is they've increased the threshold to 85 miles per hour in a higher speed zone. So in order to get hit with reckless driving in a higher speed zone, you will have to be going at least 85 miles per hour. So essentially 86 miles per hour before you're going to get hit with a reckless driving ticket. So that means if you're in a 70 zone or 65 zone, you'll have to be at least going 86 before you're going to get hit with that. I think that's a good thing, only because reckless driving is a devastating thing to have on your driving record. I think that was an improvement. I think they could probably just eliminate it entirely and just say keep it like it is. Anything 20 or more over would be reckless, but 85 is better than nothing in my personal opinion. House Bill 909 there's a provision in the law that if you get hit with a drug offense, you lose your driving privileges. I've always had a problem with that as a criminal defense attorney. If you get like a marijuana case and has nothing to do with driving, you're in your room, your dorm room, and you're smoking marijuana in college, and the police came and you got busted for it, you lost your driving privileges. I always had a big issue with that. They've stopped that. You're not going to lose your driver's license if you go into what's called a first offender program. So that's a good thing. That keeps people from losing their driver's licenses. Okay, so gun bills. Senate Bill 14. This is the trigger bill. This deals with bump stocks and binary triggers, which, by the way, are already illegal under federal rules with Donald Trump and the ATF. But nonetheless, Virginia just had to, feel like they were doing something about it, despite the fact that the feds already did. So that's going to be a Class 6 felony to possess bump stocks, binary triggers, or basically anything that will make your firearm fire other than pulling the trigger. So basically, the way a binary trigger works is that you pull the trigger, the round goes off, and when you release the trigger, another round goes off. So because that's not a manipulation of the trigger pull, that would be illegal. Bump stocks basically work when you fire the rifle, the recoil goes into your shoulder, and then there's a trigger mechanism in the stock of the gun that causes the gun to shoot again. Those are going to be now illegal under state law, even though they're not legal under federal law to begin with, under the new rules that Donald Trump passed. Minimum wage, that's a done deal. It's going to be $10, moving up $1 per hour after that. No exceptions for like college workers. That's going to happen. So be prepared for that. That is going to be a very big change in Virginia for people who are in the lower wage sector. Senate Bill 111, no excuse absentee voting. Currently now, if you want to absentee vote, which would mean you aren't going to be able to vote on election day, you can go to the registrar and vote early, but you had to have an excuse. It was a really like liberal excuse, like, hey, I'm out of town for work or whatever, but they're just eliminating that, so you don't have to have any excuse to absentee vote. That will take effect on July 1, so you'll be able to do that starting on the presidential election this year. Here's a good thing, by the way. This is a good one. Senate Bill 173. So stun guns are going to be allowed to be in your car at a school. Now, this is a change because this was not allowed until this bill passed. But basically, a stun gun, basically a device that you can zap somebody with. You'll be allowed to have that in your car in a school parking lot, in your car, as long as it's in a locked container. So basically like in your glove box that's locked. So you'll be allowed to have that for protection. I mean, that's not going to do you much if you're being chased down in the parking lot, but at least you would have it in your vehicle if you needed it. That is a change that is more beneficial. All right, red flag laws. So this one's still problematic. I'm not going to comment on red flag laws in this video because the Senate and the House still haven't reconciled what is going to happen here. So there's that Senate Bill 240. I'm going to do a whole video about red flag laws once they finally resolve their differences. It has passed in both chambers with different versions, but it is not 100% positive for me to tell you exactly what it says, and it's going to need a lot of time. So I'm going to do that video separately, probably within the next week after they figure out how they're going to work that one out. Payday loans, SB 421. That is, okay. So right now the law says you couldn't get a payday loan more than $500. That threshold is going to be increased to $2,500. And they're going to cap the interest rate at 36%. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever gotten yourselves in a payday loan situation, but they're disastrous. You borrow money, the interest rate is super high, you're basically just making minimum payments every week, and you never get it paid back. So the idea of a payday loan is just to kind of draw it out as long as possible. They've required this to be a 24-month term. They've put a 36% interest rate on this. I mean, 36% is a huge amount of money. If you are borrowing money as a payday loan, you are in a bad spot in life. I think that they could have done a lot better protecting the more vulnerable people in society. These are not people that have credit cards or good credit. These are people that have, a big problem, and giving them a higher threshold to borrow money at a 36% interest rate is what the General Assembly thought was great. Marijuana, Senate Bill 2. I don't really know enough about marijuana yet to tell you this, but it looks like it's going to be just a $50 fine. Can't be 100% sure though. Morrissey, Stanley, and Senator Eben are on the conference committee. We'll see how that shakes itself out. The House wanted to make it completely decriminalized. The Senate didn't want that. There looks like they're going to settle on it just being a $50 civil fine, which that's kind of how North Carolina does it. But I'll report more on that once we know. All right, undocumented workers. They are going to get a driver privilege card, which you might as well just call it what it is. It's going to be a driver's license. It's not going to look any different than yours. Its only difference is it's going to say not eligible to federally vote on it. But basically, we are going to have people that are illegally here in the United States, and everybody knows that they are illegally here. And the state government is going to say, yes, we recognize you are illegally here, but you're welcome to get a driver's privilege card, and we're not going to rat you out to the feds because of it. So that is a done deal. And then universal background checks. So this one, again, also has not been completely worked out. The Senate passed it on Friday. I think it's coming up on Monday, maybe Tuesday this week. It's going to pass, but they're still fighting about the language between the Senate and the House. I will tell you that what seems to be fairly settled is when you're going to do a private party sale between two people, you're going to have to involve a dealer, so a gun shop like mine. They have capped how much dealers can charge for that at $15. Now, there is also a $2 background check fee. So basically, it's going to probably add $17 to the transaction. And that is where we we're looking at. There's still some discrepancy about who has to do it and how it has to go forward, and that's that. I'll report more on the universal background check bill once the Senate finally passes whatever they're going to pass, and if they don't pass what the House wants them to pass, which it looks like they are not going to, it's going to have to go to a conference committee as well. So, hey, good news. We're at 20 minutes instead of 30, so I did everything I wanted to tell you. Let me just look through these comments and see if there's anybody else here that wants me to ask them. You know, Senator Chase was in the room here for a little bit, so if you want, you can comment on her little post about my haircut of everything you want to tell her. It will ding her when you do that, and you should do that for her making fun of my haircut. All right, well, that's it, guys. A lot more to come. I mean, red flag laws are going to be big. We're going to have to talk about those. Also, I want to tell you two more things. Very important. One, I did file a legal challenge on Friday with the Virginia Supreme Court about one of the bills. And this doesn't really apply to a lot of you, but I did want to tell you, you're all asking me, what am I going to do? Look, I did file one, and here's the issue. The legislature passed a law that said if you get involuntarily committed to a mental hospital, and then you appeal it, and the appeals judge finds that the lower court judge's decision was in error, despite that, you lose your gun rights for life until a judge reinstates you. Now, I had a big problem with that, and I spoke to Senator Chase about this, and I said, Senator, this is no different than if you get convicted of a DUI in the lower court, and then you appeal it, and you win on appeal, and they say, well, although you won, we're still going to take your driver's license away for a year. That's not how the law works. When you appeal something, you get what's called a de novo trial. And so for them to say that when you appeal, you don't get the benefit of a de novo trial is a violation of Virginia law. Now, I realize that's not a big, huge issue for a lot of you, but it was a big issue to me, and it's a big issue to my clients because I represent a lot of people that were incorrectly ruled incompetent by a lower court judge, and we appeal those cases all the time, and we win those cases more often than not. And so it's not fair if you appeal and you go through all the process of an appeal that you would still lose your gun rights. So fighting for that. I have a case before the Virginia Supreme Court, so I'm trying to piggyback that into that case, hoping they're going to take that. So that's one thing that I've done. Second thing, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a guy yesterday at the Bernie Sanders rally in Virginia Beach who had a big Trump flag, and he was asked to leave by the campus security, and when he was walking out, he got tackled by literally walking out. The security guard grabbed his flag, threw the flag down, and tackled him as he was walking out. Complete assault. He's contacted me. I'm going to get involved. A lot more of that to come. That's a big deal, and you're going to hear a lot about that tomorrow. When we're going to have a news conference about this tomorrow afternoon. So be watching for that. That's a big deal. I mean, look, we can all have our political differences, right? And if the guy had been like refusing to leave or whatever, maybe we have to get into a melee. But in this situation, the guy was literally walking away. And as he was walking away, I think he's paused just for a second. When he paused, the security guard grabbed his flag, threw it to the ground, and then threw him to the ground. And we have it all on video. So great day for those of us who live in the modern day to have that. So you'll hear about that tomorrow. That's going to be a big part of my day. And we're going to hold some people accountable for those actions. So anyway, have a great day, Facebook. Attorney Tim Anderson. We will see you tomorrow.